Hey there, I have something very important you need to know. And of course, happy holidays, Merry Christmas if you're celebrating that today. As of right now, if you don't have your company's BOI report filed, you have until now January 13th before you're going to be assessed with over $500 a day in fines and penalties and possibly jail time. I know everybody talking about, oh, well, the Texas Court of Appeals, they made it so that no one has to file. That just got overturned 2 days ago on the 23rd. Now I'm here with my love in vacationing in Portugal and Lisbon, and I'm interrupting my vacation to let you know that this is no laughing, no big deal matter. It is probably going to go back and forth. There's probably going to be a fight around this, but as of right now, if they've given us a few extra days, but it's absolutely imperative that you file your BOI report if you're not under one of the exclusions or have filed your company in the last 30 days, then you get a little bit more time.
In today's business and financial news, let's discuss the Beneficial Ownership Information Program, I guess we'll call it BOI. So if you're a small business owner, you're probably very familiar with the back and forth concerning this program and this requirement and filing that's been going on all this year. So to make a long story short, at the beginning of the year, the government said that we had to submit this filing, and then about a month or so ago, there was a Texas court, and there was like some dispute from someone in Texas where the filing was put on hold. So then all of us business owners said, oh, we don't have to file it, and then we were safe. And then it seems like right before Christmas on the 23rd, December 23rd, so literally this is supposed to be due by the end of this year if it was due, but on December 23rd, the government came back and said, actually, you do still need to file it. So that gives everyone about a week, literally, to get this done if you haven't already done it. That's the overview of the story. I'm going to read some information to get a little bit more into the details. I'll try to make this video somewhat entertaining, but ultimately, it sounds like you need to file this if you have not already done so. From what I understand, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to do it. Let's get into some of this information. That being said, I'm not a tax advisor. I'm not an accountant. I'm just giving you all some information. Okay, I'm just trying to share some information. Take it for what it's worth. So the first post that I'm going to cover is a social media. It's a center that I follow here in Chicago. Again, don't take this as advice. Here's a post from Women's Business Development Center, and this is something we saw first thing this morning. So this is December 26th, day after Christmas. We think we're good to go for the rest of the year? No, let's go ahead and get into it. The Corporate Transparency Act, CTA, is a federal law that went into effect earlier this year to prevent illegal financial activities by increasing transparency in business ownership. The CTA requires most LLCs and corporations to disclose information by 12/31/24, so December 31st, 2024, about their quote-unquote beneficial owners, meaning anyone who directly or indirectly owns 25% or more of the company or who exercises significant control over it. So this is where I don't necessarily understand, because here in the state of Illinois, you have to do your annual reports concerning your LLCs, probably for your other businesses as well, but speaking specifically about LLCs. So the government should already know this. They should already know who owns the business and the percentage, right? I don't understand. Maybe that's not the same state to state, but we also have to do the taxes. So, and you have the what are those? The articles of registration. I think that's it for the business. So they should know. They should know this information, but I guess they want to make it even more official. It's just another thing that we as small business owners have to do when it's literally the end of this year and all I'm trying to do is work on my sales. But no, we need to make sure all this is done too. Let's keep going with the post. So we, being the Women's Business Development Center, they said we shared earlier this month that the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Texas granted a nationwide preliminary injunction, which had put the filing of your beneficial ownership information, the BOI, on hold. So that's what I referenced. Earlier this month, Texas came through for everybody. We got it put on hold. We thought we were good to go. But no, it looks like the government came back and said, actually, we're going to stick to the original plan and y'all are going to file this by the end of this year, like we said. Let's get back to the post. However, on December 23rd, 2024, literally 2 days before Christmas, The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals issued an order that granted the government's emergency motion for a temporary stay of the district court's order and referenced the CTA compliance deadline in a footnote without extending it. I'm honestly not even sure what that means, but I guess one court stepped in and said, overruled the other one. Let me read it again. However, on December 23rd, 2024, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals issued an order that granted the government's emergency motion for a temporary stay of the district's court order and referenced the CTA compliance deadline in a footnote without extending it. I read that twice and still. Let's continue. As a result, this is the bottom line. It appears that as of now, the deadline for compliance with the CTA is back in effect, and you should file your report by 12/31/24. And then they reference if you need help with the reporting requirements, they have a video that you can watch, or this is a business center, so you can schedule time with them. You can schedule time with your accountant. You can schedule time with your mother, okay? Just make sure you get that report done.
Today is December 23rd, and I want to update you on the BOI filing that the federal government is threatening us with, small businesses, because the story is not over yet, believe it or not. Okay, so here's the situation. So when you file your business, when you form it, if you register it, you do so at the state level, not with the federal government. So a lot of people watching have probably been through the process. If you're going to file a corporation or an LLC, you do so with the Secretary of State. But now the federal government is trying to get small businesses to surrender their personal information to the federal government, which they have no authority to do so. Now, this was challenged by the people. It was taken to court, and a federal judge ruled on December 3rd that this Corporate Transparency Act was unconstitutional and illegal. That the power rests with the states, not with the federal government. So Judge Mazant ordered a nationwide federal injunction that blocks the enforcement of this act. But listen, that is not the end of the story. The federal government is not backing down. I mean, they really want our personal information that badly, so they're not giving up. Okay, so here's the situation. December 3rd, that happens. The federal injunction goes into effect, so we don't have to file. That's the current status. December 5th, the federal government, the Department of Justice, they want to reverse the injunction, so they file an appeal. So that's December 5th. December 13th comes around and they realize that in order to get this, moving by January 1st, they need to get this done quickly. So they file an emergency motion to get an answer, for the appeal by December 27th.
You have an LLC and you were keeping up with the BOI reporting and you know that it was halted on December 9th. It has now been reinstated. And if you don't know what the BOI is, it's the beneficial ownership reporting, basically saying, hey, I'm the owner of this LLC, this corporation, letting them who the founders are and things like that. It's part of a Transparency Act you can read up on. So it was halted and you didn't have to file, whereas you wanted to be getting penalized for $500 a day or that $10,000 or jail time. And they have now put it back in action, but they have extended the deadline to January 13th for you to be able to file. So if you're someone with an LLC or a corporation set up and you were keeping up with this and you know that it was halted, well, it has been reversed and it is now back in action. So you can go to FINCEN.gov to read more on it and get that thing in, okay? However you want to do it. A lot of people were dissolving their LLCs as well, so they didn't have to. But it's back on and the BOI is back with a deadline. You ask me, the cartel ain't working hard enough to get this thrown out because the way I see it, they're the reason why it's in place, but y'all ain't hear that from me.
But if you all want to know the backstory of all of this, then I'm going to read something that I received from another source. I'm not gonna cite the source. So this should be pretty helpful for you if you still need to file this, or if you just want to know some of the history of the, I guess, the CTA and the BOI. If that's of interest to you, we can read through this together. So this is from earlier this year, and it sounds like it's still in effect based on what I just read to you. But as of January 1st, 2024, many companies in the United States must report information about their beneficial owners, the individuals who ultimately own and control the company, to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FINCEN, a bureau of the U.S. Department of Treasury. We understand that navigating new regulations can be challenging, So to support you, we put together answers to some frequently asked questions along with links to some valuable resources. Again, everything in this video is just for general information. I'm not telling you what to do. You need to do your own research, but let's keep going. The first question, who has to report? Your company may need to report information about beneficial owners if it is, and then there's a colon, and then there's the information that you may fall into, and you probably do. Number one, if it is a corporation, a limited liability company, an LLC, or was otherwise created in the United States by filing a document with the Secretary of State or any similar office under the law of a state or Indian tribe. Okay, so they got the Indian tribes in there just in case you thought there was a little loop-de-loo. Indian tribes are included too. Or number two, a foreign company and was registered to do business in any U.S. state or Indian tribe by such a filing. So all the corporations, all the LLCs, anyone that's doing business as the Indian tribe, and also those foreign companies. So it seems like everyone. If you have a company, you got to get this done. Next question. Who does not have to report? Oh, okay, so I stand corrected. There might be somebody that doesn't have to report. Here's the answer per this document. 23 types of entities are exempt from the beneficial ownership information reporting requirements, including publicly traded companies, nonprofits, and certain large operating companies. FinCEN's Small Entity Compliance Guide includes checklists for each of the 23 exemptions, Chapter 12. Okay, so if you want to know if you're exempt, it sounds like you need to go to that compliance guide by FinCEN, and then you need to look at Chapter 12. Good luck with that. Let's keep going. How difficult is the reporting? Filing is simple, secure, and free of charge. Well, that's good to know. Beneficial ownership information reporting is not an annual requirement. Unless a company needs to update or correct information, a report only needs to be submitted once. Oh, we appreciate that. You don't have to do this every year. FinCEN has developed a series of videos and resources to guide you through the process and address your questions. Links to these helpful materials are provided later on in this article. So it sounds like if you need more information, go to fincen.gov. That's what we're going to be talking about next. How do I report? Reporting companies report beneficial ownership information electronically through FinCEN's website, www.fincen.gov/BOI. The system provides confirmation of receipt once a completed report is filed with FinCEN. So to get that confirmation, make sure you get that confirmation so you don't get caught on a technicality that it didn't submit. Next up, when do I report? FinCEN began accepting reports on January 1st, 2024.
The BOI is back. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has granted the government's emergency motion to stay a Texas District Court's nationwide injunction against the Corporate Transparency Act. The Beneficial Ownership Information Report is what this affects. Now, initially, I thought that the original deadline of January 1st, 2025 would still be in place for you to file if you started your company before 2024. But it does look like they're actually going to give a little bit of an extension, so instead of it being due January 1st, you have till January 13th, 2025 to get your report in if you set up your LLC, Inc., whatever, before the year of 2024. And then also if you set up your entity in any of these dates, you got till January 13th, and then if you set it up between these dates, you got an extra 21 days. And just a quick reminder, remember, if you set up your entity in 2025 or later, you have 30 days from the date of formation to submit your BOI report.
The next question. Will this reporting be part of my income tax filing or state annual report? So that's what I think I'd mentioned earlier, the state annual reports. The answer to that question is no. This reporting is separate from your income tax filings and does not involve the IRS or state taxing authorities. I bet it doesn't involve the IRS. But according to this document, that's what it says. This reporting is part of the Corporate Transparency Act, CTA, and is not part of the tax code. Under the CTA, BOI reports will not be filed with the IRS, but with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, another agency of the Department of Treasury. Okay, well, if one group, let's say the IRS and the state taxing authorities already have this information, why can't they just pass it on to, FinCEN? And then the FinCEN was part of the Department of Treasury. It just seems like it's just kind of duplicate work of duplicate information that's already there for government entities to know the same information. Let's just share the information, just have one database. It's probably easier said than done. And that's why they get into these penalties. So don't argue, just do what you're told. Do as you're told. Next question. Are there penalties for not filing the report? And yes, there are penalties. You need to get this done by the end of this year. Let's read about the penalties. If you discover inaccuracies in a filed report and correct them within 30 days of the original deadline, you're protected from penalties. Just get it right the first time, okay? Next line. However, willingly failing to report or providing false information can lead to severe consequences, including fines up to $500 a day or $591 per day effective January 2025, and possible imprisonment of up to 2 years, along with fines of up to $10,000. Senior leaders can be held accountable, making it crucial to comply with these reporting requirements. So that's what has stood out to a lot of small business owners, those fines. We can't be affording $500 a day in fines, or $595 a day, or $91, or $5, or $2. We don't need any additional fines when all we're trying to do is run our small businesses. So again, get this done. We don't want those penalties.
And they were going to have up to $500 and something a day fine for people that do not file this form. Well, a few weeks ago, there was an injunction. Well, there's actually, even before that, there was a lawsuit here in Alabama where a federal judge said, nope, you don't have to do that. It's unconstitutional. But that only applied to the people that were parties to that case. A week or so after that, there was a federal judge in Texas that issued an injunction and said, nope, this is unconstitutional. Don't have to do it. There's an injunction in place. That was appealed, and just a couple of days ago, there was a ruling by a federal appeals court that said that even though they have not decided the issue yet, the appeal of that order from Texas is still on appeal. They have lifted the injunction so that everybody now has to file, and of course they're going to make it incredibly easy and timely for everybody to be able to file. Since you were going to have to do it by January 1st, they have very graciously extended the deadline for filing to January 13th. Now, like I said in my last video that I did about this, that it's going to be, it's an on again, it's on off, on off, on off. People hear that no, you've absolutely got to file, and then they hear, nope, you don't have to file, it's unconstitutional. And a lot of people are just not going to have heard that, nope, you do have to file, and by the way, you've got to do it by January 13th, or else we're going to fine you $500 and something a day. My opinion about this whole thing from the start has been that it's nothing more than a trap that the federal government has set to be able to fine a bunch of people $500 and something a day, because this entire BOI filing, it's ridiculous. I had actually filed mine just a couple of days before that injunction went into place, and it took me, I want to say, I mean, even I wasn't even trying to get it done fast. It probably took me 5 or 6 minutes. And basically I had to list the members of the corporation and upload copies of our driver's licenses, okay? This is all information that's in the initial filing that I made when I formed this entity, and is currently on file with the Secretary of State here. So it is just ridiculous. Anyhow, we're not done with this. There's going to be a bunch of people that don't file this form because they heard they didn't have to, and they didn't hear that injunction got lifted. And then we're going to have the actual final decision on whether or not this is constitutional, and then Depending on how that goes, there may even be a later appeal after that. Anyhow, so that's where we are right now. You should probably go ahead and file it. I mean, it took 5 minutes, and it's not like you're giving them secret information. You're telling them who owns your corporation or your LLC or whatever, and unless you're like, forming shell companies after shell company after shell company to hide ownership, they already know because you already told them.
All right, let's get to this last section concerning questions about BOI. And the next section says, where can I find more information? You can most officially find information at the website I referenced earlier, the fincen.gov/BOI. That should probably be the first place you go. And then there's that FINCEN Small Entity Compliance Guide. And then it looks like FINCEN has some FAQs. So FINCEN is the place to go. And then it says, well, that last part I'll just cut out because you all don't need that. Anyways, it's basically saying you can talk to your accountant. They might be helpful as well. I had seen online where some people said that their accountant had charged them for this, and then other people said, well, it only takes 5 minutes to file this, so I'm not sure what your accountant is really charging you for. You can just do it on your own. Lord knows these are the last few days of 2024. We have other things to do, but we're going to make sure we keep putting out these YouTube videos and working on our online sales. So, like we always say, thanks for listening. See you soon.